Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to a very, very, very special episode of James Cameron 101. This is somebody that I actually had the pleasure to talk with a few years back in 2019 on Terminator 101. And I'll make sure I have that episode linked down in the show notes if anybody is curious, wants to go back and check it out. But here we are, 2025, 6 years later. And he has some new projects that has come out, and we're going to talk about that. And yeah, we're just gonna have a very very relaxed conversation today. I'm super excited to have him back on here. That initial podcast, I afterwards I asked if I could send him my book. He autographed it right there to Eddie. All the best, William Wisher. I sent him the T2 script and everything. He's a great guy. So without further ado, please let's welcome to James Cameron 101, Bill Wisher.
Hi.
Hello, Bill.
Can you guys hear me and see me okay?
We can hear you. We can see you.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm all right. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. The last time we talked, 2019, you're still very active in terms of creating and writing. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to get you on here and reconnect.
Okay.
So the reason I really wanted to was because I talked to John Bruno, and at the very tail end of that episode, John mentioned something called Navigator.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, Navigator. And then he pulled out his copy, and he showed me all the names.
Mine's over there in a stack of books, right?
Yeah, he showed me the very bottom where all the names are credited, and right next to John Bruno is William Wisher. And I said, hold the phone. Is that William Wisher? Like William Wisher? And he said, yeah. I was like, get out of here.
Well, John's one of my dearest friends for, oh God, probably since the 80s. And I just love him to death. And Navigator came about because of him, really, more than anyone else.
Because I noticed in my edition here, and I'll make sure I have it available if anybody wants to check this out. It's on Amazon. I'll have the link in the show notes as well. But you are credited as scripts. So
Yeah.
can you kind of tell us all what that means?
Well, sure. I think a script existed when John called me and asked me, and this is a long time ago. I mean, this project has been in the works for a very long time. And he asked me if I would read it. And this is my recollection, which isn't always the best, but I think there was a draft that he had done and asked me to basically, rewrite it. And so I said, sure. And I worked very closely with him. And we tried to sell it as a film, of course. Couldn't get that off the ground. And then years later, Dark Horse got hold of the script and said, well, we'd like to make this a graphic novel. And we thought, oh, cool. That's a good way potentially into getting the film done. And so they hired Jordy, I always get his name, Armendal, I think.
Yeah, Armengol, Armengol.
GOL, to illustrate it. And so then John and I basically sat down, and Jordy would send stuff, and we would essentially correct it and flip it back to him, and then he'd send us another batch. And this took some time, actually. And then Jordy finished the book. And I think John and I are still waiting for our first nickel.
Oh no. So wait, so my purchase of this, you didn't see anything of this?
Not yet. Um, and I think the way they do books is they do an accounting, I don't know, every year, something like that. And then they figure out what they owe you from it. And I'm still waiting, but that happens. Dark Horse is a good place, you know.
Okay. Yeah, John also mentioned something about a motion picture. And having read through it, I mean, this is very much, I mean, I don't know if this is what you feel it's reminding you of. It definitely gives me the Thing vibes.
Yeah, there's, um, it's funny. Nothing. You don't go into one of these things thinking, oh, we're going to borrow this and we're going to borrow that. But oftentimes you get finished with it and you look at it again and you go, oh, yeah, there's a touch of this here and a touch of that there and so forth. Um, um, so there's a little bit of the thing. There's also um, like some leftover T2 stuff. Um, but the story is really about how this Marine Corps officer who goes from, I think, being a major to a senior general in the course of the story. And he's estranged from his wife and his daughter. He's never met his daughter because he was, out in space for a number of years. And so, like there's the plot and there's the story. And the plot, all films and books follow this, the good ones. Um, you can tell me if you think it's good or not, but it centers around this Marine officer, and they discover an alien, the Navigator, who warns them about an imminent attack on Earth within a few years. Now, that's the plot. The story is really how this Marine officer reunites with his estranged wife and the daughter he never met because she's very small. So that's the story. It's about a broken family getting back together, and then the rest of it is the plot about the invasion of Earth. So it's not like it's broken into two pieces. It's just that's all interwoven together. There's a plot and there's a story, and so anyway, and I think that most good films and most good books contain that. You can break it down between, whatever the plot is and what the story is, um, forgetting the plot, or whatever, separate the two.
Right.
So, anyway, that's it.
I love it. I love it. And I love that there's a John Landis forward. Um, did
Oh,
you know
yeah,
anything?
John.
Did you know that they were doing that?
Yeah, I knew it, I think, just before it happened. John Bruno, I think, got a hold of him because, I think they've worked together. John's worked with everybody. And just asked him to write a forward to it. And he said, sure. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. It was very unexpected when I opened it up and I was like, oh wow, John Landis is in here. Because I don't know, like that's one thing I love about, I guess, just the industry as a whole is you have no idea who's friends with who and who knows who. And I had no
Right.
clue. John Bruno knew you. But then it all kind of adds up because really and that's another reason that I wanted to get you on here is it kind of is all centered around in one way, shape, or form, Cameron in some way.
Well,
And
I mean, we're all friends and we've all worked together, but Jim didn't really have
nothing to do with Navigator.
nothing to do with Navigator. No.
I know talking about the film in the future, um, if you were in charge of picking who does the directing duties, who would you think is a a suitable director for this if this was turned into a, I assume, live action.
Oh yeah, no, it would be live action, a lot of special effects, but live action. I don't really know in terms of which director would be right for it. I think John Bruno would like to direct it. Um, I don't know if a studio would hire him for that simply because, I mean, John's certainly qualified, but they probably have a young director of the month that they want to go to.
Right.
And I don't know who all of those guys are anymore, you know? And I haven't, there's only been a few films in the last few years that I thought were even worth watching, really. Although I watched a bunch of others and was like, well, I'm never getting that 2 hours of my life back.
Because I know for a fact there's people watching this that are going to be very curious. What are some of those films that you think are definitely worth watching?
Well, nothing in the last year or two I can think of. I like Dunkirk. I thought that was really good.
What about Oppenheimer?
Oh, I loved Oppenheimer. I thought that was great.
Okay.
Um, I really enjoyed that. Uh, Now I know Robert Downey a bit from a long time ago, and his character, his portrayal in that film is just fabulous. And then of course there's Cillian Murphy, who just walks away with every movie that he's in. You
Yep.
know, um, hated the last James Bond.
What was that? No Time to Die?
Yeah, it was like, oh please, and it's funny because a few years before that they made what's the one where he goes back to the house he grew up in at the end? It's a little like Siege on Trenchard's Farm.
It's either Spectre or Skyfall.
Skyfall. Skyfall, I think, arguably, is maybe the best Bond film I've ever seen. I've seen them all. So you never know, never know what you're going to get.
Right.
And all of this is so subjective. I mean, people who are watching or listening to this might say that I'm just out of my mind, but that's my opinion. I didn't care for it.
Right. Right.
What else has come out recently that you thought was good?
Well, my favorite film last year was from Zemeckis. It was Here.
Didn't see that.
That had Tom Hanks and Robin Wright. It was like marketed as the reunion of Forrest Gump kind of
Oh
thing.
yeah, 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 yeah. I somehow missed it.
It
I don't
is
know.
it is such a wild film. It's literally the gimmick, I guess, of the thing is it's one static camera shot. The camera never moves, and you see all the different times that happened in this one location. So it goes from like the dinosaur era to modern, and then it goes back and forth, and
That's interesting.
it's very good, very good.
Well, I'll try and catch it. Uh,
Yeah.
I didn't get a screener for that. Screeners are where I see most films in the last few years. And they're now most of it's digital, but still,
Right. Right.
um, um, I miss the DVDs.
Oh, of course. Me too. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm still a physical media collector. I have shelves filled with movies.
Yeah,
Um,
like my favorite film from a few years back was called Hostiles. Did you ever see that?
I have not.
Oh, rent it. It's so good. It's a western, um, and trying to think of the guy who starred in it. But it's
Let's
got a
see
really
here. Oh,
good
Christian Bale. Christian Bale.
Christian Bale, and who's quite tall, by the way. I ran into him in a supermarket not too long ago. Um, and it's just about how they're taking this captured Indian back to his homeland, his tribal land, to because he's dying of cancer, and and it's brutal and violent, and yet it's also touching and moving at the same time. And I think they rushed it out at the end of the year it was released, and then they to have it qualify. And then a few months later, they tried to release it wide, and just the distribution was so screwed up on that movie. And but I think it was the best picture of the year that year, and nobody even noticed it, you know.
And that is pretty shocking because it's Christian Bale, Rosamund Pike is in there, Stephen Lang's in there.
Yeah, yeah, and
Wow.
it was a great cast. And also the Native American actor.
Here we have
Oh,
Wes
West
Studi.
Studi. West Studi. Yeah,
Wes Studi.
he's wonderful. He's become a wonderful actor, and it just has this sweet, lovely ending with like practically no dialogue, and I love that stuff. The older I get, the less I want to say. I mean, the less I want people to say. Just do it with a look, do it with a body movement. I mean, there's so many ways that you can do that, and uh, uh, and anyway, Hostiles was one of those films. It was just so elegantly made.
Is it safe to say then, with that kind of approach, you enjoy the A Quiet Place movies? Kind of shifting gears here for just a second because it did just cross my mind that you are out in LA. Were you personally affected by the wildfires that happened there?
Actually, I was. If my voice sounds a little funny, I got what I coined the Palisades cough, and um, I'm in Hancock Park, which is near the Hollywood Hills, and I remember one morning, it might have been the second day, I walked outside and the sky was brown and orange, and I thought, well, that can't be good, because we're breathing all this stuff, and a lot of people I know around here had the same cough. They didn't get sick, but
Right.
developed this sort of phlegmy cough. And Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the fires, because last I heard they'd arrested like 38 people for arson. So, and there's big developers staring at all that burnt out land going, we could make a super city here. And, you know, I, I, I usually don't have a tin hat on, but um, there was something hinky about those fires.
But right now, as you look out your window, it looks normal again.
Oh yeah, no, I
Okay.
mean that
Okay.
ended a while ago, and then it's rained a few times since then.
Good.
So no, the air is as clean as it's ever going to be in LA. But the sky, I'm looking at the sky right now. It's blue.
Yeah, because I knew a couple people. I think because I was planning on doing a episode with a few cast members from The Abyss, and one of them said Ed Harris lost his house,
Yeah,
and
a lot of people, um, a lot of people lost their houses because it's a wealthy enclave, and uh, so I know a number of people who
lost their
uh,
houses.
lost their houses. Yeah, and it's a terrible thing for them. I can't even imagine how traumatic it must be to have, and a lot of those people have memorabilia from films they've worked on over the years gone, just gone. Let's move on.
You got it. You got it. Uh, Now I know when I've reached out to you in the past to get you back on, you said I'm T2'd out, and I totally respect that. We actually really covered that back in 2019, very
Yeah.
extensively, and so I'll definitely point people in that direction. But what I would love to, and I would be so upset if I didn't at least ask you a little bit about this, just because
Sure, sure.
you're one of the last people that I can even talk to about it, in terms of how it was made and all that stuff. Xenogenesis.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
that
Well,
it had like 4 people attached to it, right?
uh, that sounds about right. It was done back in 1978, and we were all babies. You know, I think I was. Jim and I are about the same age. We were both about 23. And Randy Frakes worked on that. He's passed away 2 years ago. Um, and Bob, God, if I don't remember his last name, he'll kill me. Bob, let's move on. Uh, uh, and it'll come to me. And yeah, it was done like for nothing. We spent about 40K on it,
Right.
which we got from a group of investors. These dentists had, I guess, a business manager. And we approached him, and there was a script. And Jim worked on that primarily with Randy Frakes. Um, and so the idea of the film Xenogenesis was to basically, make a short film, but that it would be a commercial to get us money to do the rest of the movie, the whole movie. And of course, we would start all over again.
Right.
Um, and that never happened. But we learned a lot, and so it was like being paid. Well, except we weren't being paid, but the it was like film school in a way. And we were digging out all of these old 1920s and 30s techniques that are dirt cheap, like uh, Jim built some models, and then they were animated, stop motion. And but then there were a couple of times I'm the dork that's in it that they had me play, and uh, oh, never mind, stupid text. Um, that they had me play, and so Jim went back and found this thing called a Shufton shot, which is a split diopter thing. So you can put a model on one side, figure out where your seam is, put the live actor on this side, and you literally shoot one side, covering up the other part of the lens, and then you roll the film back and you shoot the other side. And I, 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 I think that was like maybe they used it in King Kong or something. I don't know. But we tried to do as much as we could with essentially no money, and I think it's on the internet now. Someone told me they saw it.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's
And
it's it, it's out there.
it's a shame that it never really got any kind of, because when you watch it on YouTube is where it's available. It has it's in the lowest possible quality that you could imagine.
Oh, oh, that's too bad.
It's really unfortunate. Like somebody out there, maybe, I don't know, Jim himself should go in and remaster the thing or something. I'm sure though he wants to, like Piranha, he wants to
Yeah,
leave
he
it
would do the
behind.
opposite. He would go in and lower the resolution even more, so that nobody watches it. Um, but it was. I mean, it was grueling work because we were working 12, 14-hour days, but it was fun. And like I said, we all like really learned a lot, and it was kind of an all hands on deck thing, where you know a couple of us were uh, uh, cutting out these forced perspective uh, sets, really just sheets of paper and stuff like that, and it was hilarious. I mean, everybody did a little bit of everything, you know. And I screwed up my knee making that.
Wow. Like still to this day, your knee is messed up because of that?
No, my knee is finally, I mean, because it was so long ago, um, uh, more or less healed up. But now we were putting squibs on because it's supposed to be like a ray gun thing coming down. We tested them and everything, and then it went on the back and the front of right by my kneecap, and it just blew so hard. I was supposed to, fake fall to one knee and roll over the side of this table and hang on to it. And then all of a sudden it went off and I had no knee. And I fell 6 feet to a concrete floor. And, so it was messed up for years. For about 3, 4 years, I'd be walking, I mean, it healed up, but about 3, 4 years, I'd be walking through, like, I don't know, supermarket or something, and I would just fall down.
Whoa.
And people go, like, you okay? And I go, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I bang my knee and it would start working again. But it hasn't bothered me in forever. I got into a bad accident about 7 months ago where I took a bad fall and messed up my back and shattered my shoulder and my arm. And so I'm still recovering from that. They
Right,
said,
right.
oh, it's going to take you a year. And I'm like, oh, great. So I do PT a lot and had to relearn how to walk, which I'm doing. Although I use a cane most of the time for balance more than anything else. And but I was a gym monkey for about 30, almost 40 years. And the doctors said it's a good thing you're in really good shape because you could be dead. And but I lost 20 pounds in the hospital. I was there for 2 months,
Wow.
and hospital food is terrible. And so I'm starting to exercise again. They finally signed off on that. Just don't go crazy, and I'll get back into some kind of shape. But right now, I look a little like a POW, like I just got out of a POW camp. I'm very thin, and not like I was heavy when it happened. But so that's what's going on.
Were you doing any while you were in the hospital, were you able to do any kind of creative
No,
project?
they had me on drugs the whole time,
Ah,
oxycodone and a bunch of stuff, and so it was kind of surrealistic, my whole experience there, and then at rehab, you know.
right.
Mm. But I'm
And now
working on a book. That's what I'm mostly doing right now,
okay.
and it's a detective story set in the late '40s in L.A. No one's ever made one of those, but it this has nothing to do with the accident and my recovery, but because I already came up with the title and started working on it before it happened. But it's called Broken,
So when can
and
we expect Broken?
what are you, my agent? Is it done, Bill? Is it done? Uh, no, I've got it, and also we're going to move in about a month, just a few doors down, and uh, magnificent place that's cheaper than this one. So I'm doing that. Um, I just have a lot going on right now, but I'll probably pick it back up in about a month, sometime in May, and then I don't know, 2, 3 months after that, and then see if anybody wants to publish it.
Wow.
And it's also a good way to turn it into a movie if anybody cares about it. You know.
Right. If you had to pick one or the other, I mean, clearly you're a little more involved in Broken, but would you rather see Broken as a film or Navigator if you could only have one?
Well, um, Navigator's done. Uh, I mean, we would make them if they wanted to make any changes. It's like, well, you got to hire me and John Bruno, and pay us for that. But I mean, it's done. Broken isn't. So, you know, I don't know. My passion is always the thing I'm working on at the moment. It just always is, you know. And it's like, oh, I already did that one. No, I did that one, you know. And so I don't know. Anybody who wants to write a check for either one will get my attention, you know. So,
That's amazing.
but
That's amazing. That's a great answer. I love it. Um, no, because again, back to like when I said you want to talk about Terminator 2 and you're T2'd out, it seems like you really, even though I asked you about Xenogenesis and you were happy to talk about it, it seems like you really do like just kind of moving forward kind of thing, you know?
oh yeah, 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 yeah. I do, because the past is the past, you know, and tomorrow morning is the future. So it's way more interesting to me than anything I did before. I mean, I've done a lot of things and had some nice adventures, and it's fun to talk about them. But yeah, I don't want to live there. You know, I
Right.
don't park my brain there. I just don't. So.
When was, because anybody watching this is probably going to be totally upset with me if I don't ask you this. When was the last time that you and Cameron were face to face hanging out?
2 years ago, um, I think I told you that we had a common friend, Randy Frakes. Oh,
Yes.
Bob Garrett. Bob Garrett was the name I was trying to remember.
There we go.
Sound guy. Anyway, Randy
Randy.
passed away um, from liver failure, which is weird because he never drank a drop of anything in his life. But he came down with this, unfortunately. And then I was talking to him and talking to him, you know, and he told me what was going on. And then one night his wife called and said, Randy just passed away. So Jim, I think, was in New Zealand. And Randy and Jim and I go back to like 1972 or three. I mean, forever ago. And he was a few years older than us, but not much, like 5, 6 years. And so Jim and his office got a hold of, you know, people from the old days, including Bob Garrett and John Bruno and John's wife. And I know I'm leaving someone out, so forgive me. But he said, "Yeah, let's go to this restaurant in I think it's South Bay," and because I think he was flying out like the very next morning or later that night, even he just came into town for this, and so we had a nice long dinner and drinks uh, and basically just a celebration of Randy, you know,
Right.
who we were all very close to. And when I was a puppy, um, Randy was a bit of a mentor of mine, and uh, you know, so I always owed him a lot, and I liked him a lot. You know, it's like one of those things where you go like, well, I love the guy, and and we did, and so. Yeah, Jim flew what 17,000 miles or what, however far away New Zealand is, um, to have this dinner, and that was about 2 years ago. And I don't see him much anymore because he doesn't live here anymore,
Yeah.
you know. And he's working on his Avatar stuff, and there's nothing for me to do there. Um, so you know, I will be happy to see him anytime he's in town. He just doesn't come here very much,
Well,
you
first of
know.
all, you know, my heartfelt, you know, condolences because I only had one interaction with Randall Frakes ever, but that's more than a lot of people can say that they had, and just a lovely guy to talk to. But at that time, he was very soft spoken, I will say.
Ah,
I don't
ah.
know if that was him in general. Um,
Well, Randy was always a bit soft spoken,
Okay.
but you might have talked to him. Was it like 2 years ago or a little more?
Yeah, it was 2019, tail end of 2019.
Yeah, he might have already started to get sick. I don't really know exactly. But uh, I don't know. That might account for it. But I mean, he was always on the soft spoken side. He just
Okay.
was not a real loud guy,
But
you know.
yeah, I mean, just a great person, and I'm happy that that is still out there in the ethers, the recording, and
Good,
uh,
good,
when you
good.
told when you told me about that, I went back and listened to it, and because I wanted, of course, when I came up with this podcast, I wanted to reunite some people that I had talked to, and not knowing that he wasn't with us anymore, I was messaging him on his Facebook, and
Yeah, yeah.
so, but
That's always that's always a weird thing. I've lost a fair number of friends over the last 5 6 years, and all too young. I mean, none of them. You're supposed to die in your 80s. These guys were all in their 60s, early 60s, and including Bill Paxton. It's a good friend
oh
of
man,
mine.
Bill Paxton.
Oh, he was great.
But
He
that
was
was
great.
that that correct me if I'm wrong. That was really just a like a messed up surgery that happened.
Well, I mean, that's one way of looking at it, but no, it's a surgery that um, the surgery went well, and then he died the next day. And in that surgery, and he went to like the best place you can do it. I think it's in Ohio, and uh, and he just had a heart attack the following day, and that happens sometimes with that particular surgery, and it just came out of the blue. I just checked my phone because I was looking for somebody else, and his number's still in my phone, and I've just never deleted it. So it's just I don't know. It's one of those weird deals.
That you have that like urge to almost call them kind of thing.
Well, I mean, not as literally as looking at my phone, going maybe I'll call him because my Verizon plan isn't that good. Uh, you know, I don't know what that would cost. Um, but no, and I think about him. My parents died a couple of years back, and one right after the other, and it's one of those things where you get used to it, you don't ever get over it, and because we were very close my whole life, and every now and then I'll find myself thinking I should give mom a call, and then it's like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. So um, death is weird.
I know you've seen this film, but this is one of my all-time favorites that deals with it. Ghost, Patrick Swayze.
Yeah, yeah, I've
I
seen
think
that.
that is, I mean, that is just, I think that's one of the best, clearly fictional, but very just hopeful, I guess is the word, ways to look at how death is, um, how it pans out, I guess.
Yeah, oh, I can't think now, but there've been a couple of films about that, um, that I've seen over the years. But everybody, look, you just it's too final. I mean, there's just there's no appeal. There just isn't. And so I'm not a fan. I remember when my dad was still alive, we were talking at one point, and because he got to be 92, and he said, I don't think I'm gonna die. And I said, okay. He goes, well, I mean, it's been done. I don't think there's anything I can add to it. if there is a God and there is some sort of afterlife, it's going to disappoint a whole lot of atheists. But on the other side, if there's nothing, you'll never know.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just kind of like, yeah, it's really not worth spending a lot of time thinking about it. You
Right.
know,
Right. It's like my dad likes to quote Jesse Ventura from Predator. We're all gonna
yeah.
die.
Oh yeah, well we are, unfortunately, you know, and we all like to think we have a lot of time in front of us, but it's never enough.
Yeah.
You know, it
But
just never is.
one thing I will say that you cleared up for me there was I love knowing that Cameron knew about Randy's passing because I know you're not too big on social media, but Cameron has like an Instagram account and everything, and he'll typically like he'll post about people that pass away that he knew. Like when John Landau passed away, he obviously made a post about that. But I didn't see anything on Randall Frakes, and so I was kind of wondering if he even knew that Randy passed away. So you cleared that up. So thank you.
Oh no, he knew for sure. I mean, maybe it took a week or something for him to find it. I don't know.
Right.
Um, I only found out because of a phone call. I mean, I would have figured it out eventually, but I got a phone call saying Randy's gone.
Did you we'll wind down here, but did you know John Landau at all?
Oh yeah,
Oh, you did?
yeah, for years, and uh, he'd been with Cameron. We're talking about the same guy, right? The producer for Lightstorm.
Titanic and yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, all of that. Um, oh God, I knew him 20, 30 years, something like that,
Wow.
and I didn't know he had died, and I didn't get the phone call, so I don't know if he had a funeral. But if he did, I wasn't there.
Okay.
I just wasn't, you know. I think I found out like a couple of months after he was gone, and it was like, what? You know.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, yeah, that was it. When was that? It was about 4 years ago, maybe.
Oh, Landau? No, that was way more recent.
Was it?
Yeah, yeah,
I okay.
yeah.
Um,
Because I mean, you talk about being shocked. I think everybody, especially any fans of Avatar, you know, because he was so.
What did he die of?
Variety reported that he died of cancer.
Hmm. Well, that's terrible. That takes a long time.
Um, but he was so outspoken about Avatar. Like you could tell he loved Avatar. He loved making those movies with
Well,
that whole.
John was just outspoken about damn near everything. He was just kind of like that, and you know he became Jim Cameron's gatekeeper for the world, and not for me because I had Jim's numbers and you know I knew him forever, but yeah, he was like Jim's Hollywood bodyguard in many respects, you know, and I'm sure Jim misses him.
But before I let you go here, Bill, there is word, there's rumblings because I talked to the author of the book, Charles Pellegrino, that Cameron's going to be adapting a book based on Hiroshima coming up here.
Interesting. He's been interested in Hiroshima for decades,
Okay.
and he kind of recreated it in T2. You know, when Sarah witnesses the end of the world.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and so I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised
Yeah.
because it's a subject he's been interested in forever.
Yeah. The book is called Ghosts of Hiroshima, and he'll at some point when he finds time in between the Avatar films, he'll he'll adapt it, is what I was told. So I'm very excited for it, and just wanted to get your 2 cents on it. So, but
Yeah, well, you know, Jim's a very good writer. so I'm sure he'll make a go of it. Um, I don't know the book. I mean, obviously, I'm very familiar with the incident, um, but it might be. I wonder if it's the book about. There was a guy that was at Japanese fella was at both events, Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
That's exactly what it's about.
Okay, yeah, then I know the book. I mean, I know of the book.
Yep.
Um,
He was in
he,
Hiroshima and then he got on a train.
yeah, and went to Nagasaki. I think his girlfriend or his family was there, and got there just in time for the second bomb,
Yep.
and survived both. You know,
Yep.
remarkable, remarkable story.
This year we're getting the third Avatar film, so obviously I'm excited for that. But um, little Avatared out at this point.
Well,
So,
he's. I don't know how many he's going to make. It initially, he was going to make six.
oh my
The-
god, 6.
Then I think I heard recently that Disney said, "How about four? Four would be good." And but Jim is Jim, so I don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah,
If they keep making money, he'll keep making the movies.
they make
You
a
know.
lot of money. So,
Oh no, they do. Usually,
Oof.
it's at least $1 billion a piece,
Oof.
um, sometimes more. So, uh, um, but yeah, at some point, the world will get avatared out.
So what is and this will be my final question for you. What is out of everything that, and I know you said you're most passionate about what you're working on at the moment, but
I always am. I always am.
if I had to ask you what you're most proud of, can you answer that?
Oh yeah, that's probably T2.
T2?
Yeah, um, partly because um, the script didn't change, and I just saw a clip where Tarantino. Someone asked him, "What did you think of Natural Born Killers?" And he goes, "Ah, I haven't seen it." "Oh, are you gonna see it?" "No." "Well, why not?" He said, "Because he wrote the script for it." And he
Right.
said, "They rewrote the hell out of it." And basically his attitude is, "You don't do that with my work." And uh, so yeah, T2 was when we were done with the screenplay. Um, Practically nothing changed. You know, um, a couple of onset things, but no, it was just Jim shot what we wrote, and and he did a wonderful job. It's not that I don't want to talk about it because I'm bored with it. It's just I can't think of a new thing to say. Said all of it, and
At this point,
but
you'd be
yeah,
making something up, right?
I'd have to. You know, yeah, it's like we had a lot of trouble with Arnold's boyfriend on the set. What? Um, no, I just don't have anything new to say. It's all out there. Um, and but I'm incredibly proud of it, and I'm really glad that it didn't go through, you know, revisions and revisions and nothing. It's just like we wrote it, he shot it, that's the movie,
There you go.
you know. And I
Yeah.
remember when I saw it, I was like, well, that's what I wrote. That's good, you know. So.
Yeah, and this is seriously, this is one of because I initially thought this is the one that I sent to you in 2019,
Oh
and
yeah,
right there.
did I sign it?
Yep.
Oh, okay, I can't really see on the screen, so I'll
Oh,
take your
okay.
word for it.
But I initially thought that I had lost it at some point along the way of moving from Florida to Georgia, and I went back to my parents' house, and they had kept a big bin of things that I left behind, and I accidentally
Oh,
left this behind for some reason.
if you lose it, just buy another one and send it to me. I'll sign the other one for you.
All right. Well, look, I personally, I love talking to you. That's why I'm always like, can I talk to you again? And so, because I just love hearing, all the old stuff, and I love hearing about whatever you're working on in the future. definitely going to be asking you a lot about Broken and when it's available. So
Yeah, I got to write it. You know, I mean, it's partly written, but this accident that happened to me last year that's going to take me a full year to recover from has just slowed me down. You know, which I don't like. And I'm thinking, unfortunately, I may have lost a year of my life. You know, to recovering and all of that stuff. And I don't have a lot of those to just burn up and throw away. You know. Um, but that, you know, if that's the case, that's the case. But I got to get back, you know, into the kind of, well, hopefully the shape I was in before it happened,
right.
um, and put 20 pounds of muscle back on. So, excuse me. Um, uh, uh, but that's what has slowed it down a bit. But the whole thing is outlined. Writing
Good.
it's going to be the easy part, and it really will.
Well, look, I'm very excited for it, so I will stay up to date with you and ask you. But I promise I won't be as annoying as your agent. So,
Okay, all right, appreciate.
and every guest gets this question that you have to answer. What's your favorite Cameron film? You have to answer. What's your favorite Cameron film?
It would be Terminator 2.
Terminator
I,
2, and that's putting
I
your association aside.
yes, putting my association aside, I think it's the best film he's ever made. Probably my second favorite one would be Titanic.
Yes.
I was around Titanic a lot in post, not while they were filming it. I was working on some other project,
Uh-huh.
and so I couldn't go down to Mexico and be part of it. And
But you saw the editing and the putting together, kind of.
yeah, I was kind of there, uh, you know, fairly often, and um, you know, and sort of, and you know, and he would get very enthusiastic. Come on, look at this, look at this. This is so cool. And I'd be like, yeah, that is cool, you know, that kind of thing. And we did some of that right through the first Avatar, and and then we just didn't spend as much time together. And then, and somewhere in there, he moved to New Zealand, so that makes it that's a long commute. You know.
And you had no interest in New Zealand?
Uh, what I mean, like in seeing it?
No, moving there.
Oh no, 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 no. Well, I'd have to get divorced first. That's number one. Um, but uh, no, I mean I've been a lot of places. One of my favorite places that I've spent some time in was Vietnam, um, and John Bruno was there for that. And then right after Vietnam, I went to Ireland and made IT with Pierce Brosnan and John Moore directing.
Right, right.
But that's about a decade ago. Um, I've worked on other stuff since then, but and written other stuff since then. But then COVID hit, and there was no Hollywood, and you know, it just all became very sort of difficult. So then I thought, I'll write a book.
Well, there we go. And everybody's going to be looking forward to it, myself included. I will let you go and contact your wife. I'm sure she's getting very anxious.
Yeah, she is, and I got to feed the cats. They're going to start tearing up something pretty soon.
All right. So,
Surprised they
Bill.
haven't. Yeah,
Oh, no, no. Sorry. Finish your thought. Finish your
no,
thought.
no. I wasn't going to say anything important. Uh,
Look,
so,
I know that your time is valuable and that you've had to put up with me constantly going, "Hey, can I get you on now? Can I get you on now? Can I get you on now?" So, thank you for putting aside an hour and nearly an hour and a half of your time
you're
to come
welcome.
back on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Well, listen, it's been fun. You take good care of yourself, and hit me up in a few months, and I'll let you know how the book's come along if it's not already done.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Take care.
All right, bye, Bill.
Bye bye.
Bill Wisher, William Wisher. Listen, everybody, seriously, please do yourself a favor. go pick up Navigator. If you are not already an owner of it, it is on Amazon. That is where I picked it up. I'll have the link down below. And of course, keep an eye out for Broken, Bill's new book coming out. And look, you know what? Just go watch Terminator 2, go watch The Terminator, go watch The Abyss, go watch Martini Ranch. I should have talked to him about Martini Ranch, but I didn't. But I have talked to Jeanette Goldstein, so that makes me okay. But I'm happy, so happy. We covered a little bit about Xenogenesis. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed it immensely, getting to reconnect with Bill and get him on a different podcast, but get him on a podcast nonetheless. I can't even talk. I'm so excited. Thank you for being here, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, share it around if you're a Cameron fan. And look forward to more new episodes coming out in the future. And of course, always go to the back catalog. Check out everything from the previous months and potentially years of the podcast. So thank you for being here. I will be back very soon. And as always, go watch a Cameron film.